All right, we're live. We're keeping ourselves on track. Brian is reminding us what we're doing, and I'm sorting through
Mm-hmm.
voicemails, and Megan is just being awesome. So we're back, guys. It's Mount Rushmore time, and today is AC/DC bag. Before we get to that, we have to talk about stuff. Obviously, um, we have a couple voicemails. I don't think we have time to do them today, but again, I'm storing these voicemails for a special occasion. And I just want to say, I want to acknowledge Tony's voicemail, which I was not able to play, but he got to 308 followers on Instagram, and then he did a bunch of photos and some acting with the HF Pod shirt. So props. You're the power listener of the week, Tony. So thank you for supporting us.
That was awesome. We also have some other power listeners of the week, and those are the nerds from Blue Sky who are making unbelievable graphs of the stats that we've been talking about on this podcast. Just want to shout them out. If you like math and you like nerdy fish stuff, you need to be following HF Pod on Blue Sky because we've just been getting into some really cool stuff. And I just appreciate that people are taking our stats and going so far with them. And I've learned so much about median versus average this week. So thank you.
Those are important things to know, and thank you guys for always being here with us and helping us out. It's cool to see people creating content based on the content we create. It's always fun. So okay, one thing I want to say is that if you're in the Northeast this weekend, you might want to go see Reprise. They are playing. There's a free show at Levitt Pavilion on Thursday, which is in Westport. It is technically at capacity, but I think we'll continue to release tickets. But it's exciting that so many people are going to come out and see Reprise at Levitt Pavilion. They are going to be recreating a Fish album. So that's the Fish album is called A Live One.
A kind of good one.
May or may not be familiar with that one. It's an old one. But yeah, they're playing there. They're on 15th, Friday. They're playing in Maine at the Grateful Campout. And then on 16th, they're playing in Worcester, Massachusetts. Those are the last shows until they come to Philly and go to Woodstock 2 nights. Thursday, September 4th is at Woodstock. Friday, September 5th is here in Philly at the Brooklyn Bowl. People in Philly and around Philly, come hang out. It's going to be a great show here in Philly. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Is there anything else we need to say, guys? How's everybody doing? How are we doing?
I just want to make sure that they're playing Fish's Oswego show when they're at Woodstock.
They are not. They're playing Joyous Lake.
Okay. All right.
How do you feel about that?
It works. I just, the parallels between them playing Woodstock and playing the Oswego second show. What is that, 7/18? I don't know. I feel like it would work, but who am I?
Well, we have many shows at the Bearsville Theater, which is now, reopened, revamped. There's going to be many, and I think that will be there eventually, Brian. So I'm going to put it on the wish list, run it up the chain, and it has the Brinkman seal of approval, which, what else do you need, really?
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Exactly.
Not much. That's it. Okay. What else you guys got to say?
I just am excited to get back into Rushmore. I was a little rusty doing these notes. I was like, what is this? I feel like we haven't done this in so long. I feel like summer tour was really long, or just we've been busy. I don't know why. It feels like it's been a long time. It was, what was it? June the last time we did one?
Yeah, the last one we did was, what would that be? It was Carini, the first week of June, because then we did the
God, that was like 100 years
Summer
ago.
25 venue draft, and then we were off while RJ was gallivanting across Europe. And then we had 6 weeks plus a overall tour recap. We had a lot.
Yeah.
This was a long summer tour, all things considered.
Yeah. Took a break for the tour. I think we've set ourselves up in a little bit of an unfair way, actually. I think it's hard to go back into Rushmore after this summer tour when everything seems to be hitting at a level we haven't seen in a long time. And I think hitting these peaks that are, I'm not going to say they're unprecedented, but I'm going to say that it's, I think it's notable and makes me think about Rushmore in a little bit of a different way. But I feel like it's putting us at a disadvantage because we have to go from these, shows that we just heard, which are, so many of them are so incredible, and we got to jump back in. And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't mentally prepared for it.
I wasn't either. I feel like it's so interesting listening to like really sophisticated 4.0 jams and then jumping back into jams that are amazing, but also from a long time ago and just sound a lot different. I started on next week's Mount Rushmore, and just the difference in a few years is pretty wild.
Yeah, stylistically, we'll talk a bit about that through a couple of the jams, a couple of the versions we're going to include here today. But yeah, I think that we all can agree coming out of last week's episode, we're in a very special place with fish right now. And whereas certain unnamed past tours, they would end, and I would always kind of be like, all right, let's go listen to like Great Fish. We just got finished listening to Great Fish. So you go back and you listen to even like different eras of fish, and it hits a little bit differently now. It's a little strange.
We got to keep rolling on, guys. I do want to say that we what's next week? Is next week Ghost?
Next week is Sigma Oasis.
Oh, Sigma Oasis. Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. New song. Yeah. So, we're going to be listening to some contemporary fish.
Okay. Great.
And you know what's after that?
Ghost.
Well, that's the next Rushmore, but you know what's after Sigma?
I do.
Is it? It's the episode that nobody knows why we're doing.
Exactly. The Dicks shows and jams draft.
I just like, how did the jams get squeezed in there too? Like I was looking at it and I was like, okay, we're doing shows. Like I like how you structured it, how there's like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, potentially Sunday. I don't remember, but day of the week draft, like shows that we're drafting, which I think is super cool. But then there's also like another one, I think that's just like any show, anytime. And then there's jams too, which it just seems like it's like bulking it up a bit. No?
I don't think it's not at all. I think you want us to explain. I think we're in a little bit of a rush here, so maybe I shouldn't get into the nuances of the Dick's draft, but we're combining shows and jams to give us a full breakdown of the best shows you should go after to listen to if you're missing Dick's, and also the best jams that you should check out if you're missing Dick's. I think it's pretty fair, but who am I? Just a guy.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll
Just
see how
a guy.
this goes down.
I will, Megan. I can't comment on your question about the Dick's draft because I haven't looked at the document yet. But when I do, I'm going to have thoughts, and it's going to be great.
Send a full breakdown in our text thread of how to approach this, and RJ's like, I just didn't even look.
The day before, he'll be like, maybe I'll take a look now. I don't even prepare for these things.
Guys.
Meanwhile, I'm getting, hey, this is version 2.16 of my updated short story. Can you read it before tomorrow night?
Totally.
I said yet. Yet is an important word in that sentence because I will eventually read everything. And that is just, it's all about sequencing, as you guys know. It's all about sequencing. Okay, so let's get into it. We got a guy. Yeah, Brian is always inventing drafts to lose to Meg. It's true. It is becoming a parody.
It feels like he's trying to invent them in order to make me lose, is what some of these feel like. But it's okay. I always rise to the challenge.
You know what? By preparing and drafting, we win already.
It's true. It's all just, fun no matter what.
Ev Dude has a good point here. Can we get an official draft leaderboard? That would be interesting.
Oh,
yeah, sure. Why not?
Like. We should put that in our document, like who wins each one, because I've kind of forgotten.
Sure, you have.
I wonder. We know. Why doesn't someone tell us? Can one of our listeners who's followed all of our drafts just tell us who's won them? I believe you.
I can tell you who's won all of them. It's okay. I keep track of it.
You do? On like a secret doc?
No, like in my head, I know these things.
You can't remember that I watched Moneyball the week before and we had a conversation about it, but you can remember everything about which draft.
I didn't lose anything when you watched Moneyball, and I had already seen it.
All right. Well, here's the deal, guys. We're getting into this for our friends who are driving to work. This is we're only 9 minutes and 38 seconds into the episode, so I would say we are extremely ahead of schedule here. We barely talked about sports, Brian. We could talk about the NL standings and the upcoming pennant race if you want, or we can talk about movies, TV shows, books.
Or how I'm going to a Cubs game?
You're going to a Cubs game. Probably will be a very sad Cubs game based on the state of affairs.
Uh-oh.
5-game series against the Brewers at home, and we're currently 7 back, I want to say, in the standings. We're still up in the wild card, but like, man, Tom Ricketts and his whole like nail salon ownership bullshit of this team, I'm just like, I can't handle it. But I did watch a great movie last night, Caught by the Tides on Criterion. It is directed by the same guy who directed Mountains May Depart, which we will be talking about in a future Blockbuster Card episode. So if anyone out there is a Criterion subscriber, I cannot recommend it enough. Tracks Chinese history since the entrance into the World Trade Organization through the story of one young woman. Unbelievable, moving stuff. Brought me to tears at times, which anyone who knows me knows that's a very difficult thing to do.
Wow, this is that's really interesting to know, and thank you, Brian, for saying that.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. Glenn Russell says, I don't know. I still have some thoughts about this stretch here with the Phillies and the others in the NL, but we'll just keep it rolling, as they say. All right, I have some stuff to say about this song before we get into it. It was the opener at my first show, and I have strong feelings about it generally, but I think that's not the first thing that happens. The first thing that happens is that, Megan, do you tell us about this song? Do you tell us what the deal is with this song, especially if you've never heard it before?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to tell you about AC/DC Bag. I just remembered that this is what I do during Mount Rushmore episodes at about 2 o'clock today. So AC/DC Bag is one of the earliest Gamehenge tunes to debut in their live shows. It was first played on April 1st, 1986 at Hunt's in Burlington. And that's about 2 years before Trey's thesis, The Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday, was complete. And in the final version, it was the 4th song of the rock opera following Wilson and before Colonel Forbin's ascent. The song was a standalone song first, and it appeared on the band's 1986 The White Tape. The music and lyrics were written exclusively by Trey, and it is said he used the dictionary of cliches to help write the many cliches found in the song, which is woven in between the story of Mr. Palmer, who's about to be hanged by Wilson's robotic hangman, AC/DC Bag. The song is a conversation between Wilson and Palmer. Originally, the song had an intro that was eventually dropped, but for the most of its first decade of its life, it stuck to form as a short rock tune. But in 1995, it started to stretch to about twice its length. And finally, it graduated to jam vehicle status in 1997 at Hampton, specifically by stretching out past the 20-minute mark. It inspired a handful of big jams throughout the end of 1.0 and 2.0, but was mainly shelved as a jam vehicle. I say mainly because there were some 9 to 12-minute versions in 3.0 and early 4.0, but it didn't reach Monster Jam status again until as recently as 12/31/23 in a big jam that was the soundtrack to the March of the Multi-Beast through MSG as part of the first Gamehenge in almost 30 years. It's been performed 338 times, so on average every 6 shows since its debut. And it's been on the jam chart 32 times, so it has an under 10% chance of jamming. Brian curated 12 versions for us that started as early as 1993 and went all the way to 2024.
What a song.
What a song.
What a song.
Yeah.
I would say that, so for me, this is like, it's my favorite opener. It's a reliable rocker to get things started. It's kind of like gone away from this as like, you know, sort of like Runaway Jim or like all those songs that used to open shows so frequently back in the day. Now it just is like, who knows? You don't know what's going to happen. But it feels like that, looking at the jam list that Brian compiled, you know, we really go 19 years into the future after after Coventry before we have our next jam chart version. So I don't know, because I haven't looked ahead at everything that Brian's done, and he has a lab that he does all these Rushmore planning sessions in. It's like to wear a coat and get like special clearance to get into the lab. So I haven't been in there, but I gotta assume this is going to be the biggest jam gap that we'll encounter in a Rushmore. Like 19 years
might be.
It's a really long time. And I wonder if there are any other songs that will have that sort of gap. But you know, only time will tell, because we don't know yet. Everything's moving.
I mean, we did an episode on 2001 back in May, and we have a
Hmm.
21-year gap there.
Oh,
Not to
well,
burst your bubble
Well,
so
no, I
quick in the
no, but
episode,
I
but
s-
facts got to be facts,
but I said from here. I meant
From
from here
here.
You did.
forward.
From here. Sorry, I got to be listening. Sorry,
Probably is
teacher.
one of those.
Be
Probably is
listening.
one of those. That was a convenient phrasing on my part. All right.
Mhm.
So we're going to I guess we should just get into it. Brian, do you have any preamble before you start getting into, presenting your pick, your first pick, your first Rushmore?
I just have a couple of things. I mean, I think Megan just perfectly laid that out there for us. I think a couple fun things about this song. You're absolutely right. It is one of the best openers, if not the best opener that the band has. It was one of the earliest Fish songs I remember discovering. I love how the chords to the song are essentially the title of the song, except you replace the B with the F. Clearly why they named it AC/DC Bag. But it's always like a funny, little like Trey, way too in his head music theory guy of just like, well, why don't we just name it after the chords? So you have that. There's like a schmaltzy kind of cheesiness to this song that I don't know if I would really like this song if it wasn't a Fish song with as much history as it has, but that's
Yeah.
kind of like the nature of loving Fish is the fact that like they're gonna play songs that are kind of objectively bad by other bands' status, but here this is like one of everyone's favorite songs, plus it has the jamming history to it. I think, beyond that, like you basically have three ways that this song can be utilized. Let's get the show on the road. It kicks the show into high gear if it opens up a show. Even if it falls in like the second or third song of the show, it does a great job of just like, we're here, we've arrived, we're in the show at this point. There's also this kind of mysterious dive into the underworld. And then there's one version in particular that I think just exemplifies the way too inside baseball nature of the fan base, which is the Velvet version from 7/23/17, where it opens set two. They've hinted over the last week that they are jamming everything. So, of course, a set two opening AC/DC Bag on Velvet Night is going to take us into the underworld. No, it's just a 7-minute version that then dives into Wolfman's and Twist and some great stuff within that set overall. But when I was thinking about this, someone noted this in the chat. I think it was Ed, and it brings up a very good point that it is hard to compile a Mount Rushmore version for a song like this when the vast majority of this song is type 1 and is 7 minutes long.
Mhm.
And I certainly considered a few 7-minute versions to slot in there just to, because there are some great, like from 95, 94, 96. There's some just like fantastic, very straight ahead rock versions of this song. But then I kind of stepped back and I thought about the idea behind this series, and what this ultimately is to capstone Fish at their best. And I think I had just fully accepted Fish at their best. The 12/195 Down Disease notwithstanding, is when they take a jam vehicle or a song deep in the sort of way that they would take AC/DC back. And I think we can all agree there will be some songs to come that don't jam as heavy, but a lot of the songs that we have listed here for Mount Rushmore have potential for future Mount Rushmore episodes, all have the jamming nature. They're all going to embrace that unknown quality. And that kind of is one of the requirements here for the series. So I went with jamming versions. I'm just going to put that out here. There's some excellent jamming versions of this song. And it's one of those songs that whenever it leaves the structure, it's in that rare category of no matter how many times it's done it, the entire crowd loses their mind because, like you said, Meg, there's a less than 10% chance that you're ever going to see um, type 2 version of AC/DC Bag. When you see it, it's one of the most exciting things that you could experience in a Fish show.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about how when you're talking about how it usually goes type 1, how many great, like, tight, like, mid-90s versions there are of this song, and just how it's, like, perfectly encapsulates, like, Fish at its best when it's, like, punchy and silly, but it's also narrative and so steeped in history. And for this one, I really struggled because there's some versions that I wanted to pick musically, but they have less, like, historical context, and this song is such an important part of Fish history and Fish lore that it is the context weighed very heavy, and I struggled with that. You'll see where I landed, but it's interesting because this song does have such a big part of Fish history.
Brian, I don't want to take any weight out of this exercise because it's important and it's the theme of the year after all, and it might be the theme of the year for years to come. So that's my caveat. But I found a lot of these historical versions that I in my head hold up as like the best versions, kind of paling in comparison to some of the jams I heard on this most recent summer tour. And I wonder as you went through if you felt any of that and if you felt any pressure of like choosing these because they're classic versions, even though they might not have felt as powerful to you at this exact moment.
In one instance in particular, which we will get into, we do have to shout out ECW, who is just crushing the comment
Yes.
section right now. It would have helped Monda Green Day 4, a jammed out ACDC bag. Look, it helps out literally any show. One of the versions we're going to talk about in particular would not be a live Fish release show were it not for this version of ACDC bag in that show. I think to your larger question, and I'll talk about this as we get into it. There's one jam in particular that I have here that stylistically you listen to it and it is a pretty unanimously praised ACDC bag, and it contains one of my favorite moments in Fish history. And you listen to that jam now compared to what we just got and what we got last summer as well. And it really makes you happy that the band is able to play with so much more diversity in their jamming than they did back in the day. We'll get into that. Should I just dive into this here? Should I kick us off? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So for my first version, so like I said, and if someone wants to come back at me with 4 7-minute ACDC bags that I should have had instead of the 4 jammed out versions, I am here for it. I will celebrate those with you. But we are going, what can ACDC bag do when, what is this? Mr. Palmer actually gets hung, but like he's like dangling there for 25 minutes and he's like going on his own like psychedelic mind trip. Like whatever happens when we leave the song and we go into the unknown, that's what's happening right now. So first version, this is, I think, one of like the most stark breaking with the past performances that we've ever heard the band play. This is the 11/21/97 version from Hampton Coliseum in Hampton Roads, Virginia. I say that because, leading up through 1997, obviously the band had adjusted their sonic output and the way that they were jamming. It was much more rhythmic, groove-oriented, funk-oriented. And throughout the summer, we were getting scatters of songs that had not been jammed before that were being jammed. But it really wasn't until this second set on night 1 in Hampton that we go from a really lush, beautiful, very underrated, minimalistic Ghost into AC/DC bag. And the band jumps off into a 25-minute long jam vehicle that goes through Machine Gun, Hendrix Trey, into groove-based jamming, into open-ended ambient textures, jamming in a shoegaze fashion that harkens back to My Bloody Valentine, in an acid jazz fashion that harkens to, in a silent way, Miles Davis. This is some of the best music I've ever heard in my entire life. Some of the most wild, open-ended, let's just go for it jamming a song that could literally only be resolved by fading into Slave to the Traffic Light, a song that the band knew how to play in 1997 as opposed to 2025. Um, and this version really represents what's about to happen on in fall tour of 1997, where any song is now jammable. Any song can now be, you know, explored in the way that Tweezer and Bowie and Mike's and Gin were explored before this. Anything is of it. Anything is possible. There's nothing off the table except maybe bouncing around the room, which we're still waiting for the 20-minute version of that. But this version just in a way that, like, you remember the first time they played a Type 2 sample to open the Jam Filled show? It was very cool, and it was an amazing moment, but it definitely felt like we're still within the reins of sample. A lot of the time when they jam out a song that they don't typically jam out, you're still kind of within the reins of it. This is something that we'll talk about with Bag as we evolve, is there were versions that were still kind of within the pocket. It is shocking that the first time they jam this song, they jam it in the same way that they would have jammed Tweezer or they would have jammed Bowie just 2 years prior. Just open-ended, unbelievable exploration. I can't say enough about this, so I'm gonna let you guys, jump in and say something about it too.
I mean, I just want to say that, well, first of all, this is like Fish at peak power era. Like it's just unbelievable. And significant because it's really the first time it's really like stretched out like that. I think like there's a couple before this that we might talk about, but this one really, to me, as I was listening back, I agree that it belongs here, but it definitely was like, why is this so great? When I listened back to it twice, I was like, this doesn't really like do that much, but I think it's because my brain is in the mode of like, there's so much that I've listened to over the past 3 months where like, there's just so many layers and so many textures and so many like tempo changes and so many everything that just like I feel like my brain has been reprogrammed, which I never intended. And as recently as a year ago, I was like, Fish is not that great anymore. I said that probably on this podcast, but now it's all different. So I don't know if that happened to you guys, but I still think it belongs here, and it's an amazing jam. But I found myself with some dissonance, like between that and where I am now.
Yeah, I felt very similar. It's interesting because when I went through my listening for the first time, I was like, of course, this one has to be on there. The Winston-Salem Hampton, just that live Fish release is like one of my favorite things ever. And listening back to this, the way that it moves between sections is so effortless, and how it has this like rocking, funky, delicate, all these different sections, but still has the like driving bag rhythm underneath it. But then it kind of blows out into this like ambient, spacious section. It's great, but I found it meandering a little bit and compared to some of the other versions. And I think maybe RJ, you're right. Maybe it's because of what I've been listening to lately. I did have it on my list as well, though. I think historically it's like super important for this song. I don't know if they would have jammed, I don't know if 12/30/97 would have happened if this hadn't. So I think it's really important.
I'll talk about this in a couple when we get. There are a couple AC/DC Bag jams that felt very meandering. This one particularly feels very focused to me. This
Mm.
feels. I think this and the Haleys are the two strongest jams from the Hampton run of '97. And I think it's that much more shocking that it came out of AC/DC Bag. Like, I mean, I guess even like
Yeah, yeah.
Haley wasn't a huge jam vehicle. I'm struggling to think of there was nothing like the 11/22/97 version before that, but I'm struggling to think of another one that jammed before that. But oh, of course, 12/14/95. I'm an idiot. But like those two songs were kind of in the pocket, fun openers to a set or transition within a set. Um, and then to have them hold down second sets at this point in time said so much about where the band was at this point in time and what they were willing to do. I think it is challenging to your larger points, to go back now, where they're at a point modern day where they can kind of play anything, they're willing to play anything, and they've clearly put in the work to be as tight as they could
Yeah.
possibly be in this era. Whereas 97 is very clearly a break from the tightness of the early 90s, and they're trying to loosen things up, which is why you get a little bit more um a few issues here and there, and then you get these open-ended jams as a result of it. But that is number one, 11/21, 1997, Hampton's AC/DC bag. Anything else we have to say about this?
No.
You said it. You did it.
Yeah.
Do we want to go to number two?
Yeah, we do.
Let's do it.
All right. There was a joke there from Ed earlier. A lot of wind up for the most predictable first pick in HF Pod Mount Rushmore history, which is true. I'm going to give you a lot of wind up here for the second most predictable pick in Mount Rushmore history. RJ did text us over the weekend and said, this is a bit of a straightforward Rushmore, isn't it? And I agree that until this morning, everything was set in stone. And then it threw me off on one of them. But the first three were always going to be the first three for me. So this one, this comes from what I consider the best Fish show of all time. It is 12/30, 1997 MSG. The thing that's shocking to me about this version of AC/DC Bag is whereas 11/21/97 is so much sprawl and it's led by Trey really kind of showing off his machine gun nature and then what he can do when he steps back and uses effects more than solos. This one is a single-minded groove machine. This is the whole band locked in. Trey's playing chords for the first 15 minutes of this jam. Page is kind of like the standout star here. Mike has a ton of leads. Fishman is keeping things incredibly tight, incredibly locked in. Everything that they were talking about, or they will talk about in 2 songs from now during the Harpua, about how the stage is rising and moving up and down. You can hear them getting to that this whole jam. You can hear them just trying to like get the whole floor and stage into a rhythm that
Yeah.
rises up and down. There's a moment around, I think it's like 13/21, where they're building, and then Fishman hits a snare and they all change on a dime. And it's like one of my like 5 favorite moments in Fish history. It's completely locked in. The band is so tight at this point in time while also being as loose as they possibly could be. This is like Autobahn Fish. It's like Kraftwerk Fish. It's, this is Fish almost in the way that like U2 reinvented themselves around Octoon Baby. This is Fish like taking on Euro dance grooves and applying them to a quartet in a live rock setting. I've said so much about this show and probably about this jam before, so I will hold it there and let you guys speak. Meg, I know you're very passionate about this show as well. I think we have the same feelings about this show at large, but this to me, where you get the sprawl in Hampton, here you get this very locked in, tight focused, and it's amazing that just 1 month later, they could take this song that had not jammed at all prior to this and turn it into 2 of the best jams that we heard of one of the best years in Fish history.
I love hearing you talk about it in a sort of like analytical academic way, because I have no ability to separate this show from its context and my attendance bias. And I remember so much about this show in this moment. And I actually this week was looking at pictures of the old MSG because I remember where I was standing when this set started. And that's unfortunate. I wouldn't do it. You end up seeing a lot of pictures of like old Nazi rallies, but or like the one infamous like huge Nazi rally. But I did want to see it because the first set was crazy, obviously, like opening with the Sally and everything. But when this set opened, and of course, we knew it had happened in Hampton, and I wasn't there, but I knew it, I'd heard it. And when we realized they were jamming it again, my friend and I were just we were like, this show is crazy. And I remember dancing so hard to this jam. And it's one of those moments that I will never forget in my whole entire life. And we didn't even know like what was coming. That's what's so crazy is that we didn't even know McGrupp is coming next. And then Harpua, like one of the best Harpuas ever. And it just felt so magical. And it had to be on my Mount Rushmore too, just because of that moment for me. But I'm just glad to hear that it actually is good outside of that, because when I hear it and listen to it, all I can think of is that moment.
Do you know how long set one at that show was? Sorry.
No, I don't.
I do, only because Reprise just played it, so we had to plan.
I know set 2 is really long.
Yeah, are they? Go ahead, Brian.
What were you gonna ask?
I think they're both like. Well, I think the second set at Encore is like 2.5 hours, and the first set's like 1 hour.
The first set is, according to Live Fish, is 1 hour and 1 minute, and so like you get the probably 40-minute set break because it was the 90s.
Yes.
And then they come out. It's an hour 52-minute second set and a 29-minute encore.
We were going all night in the 90s. We were like, let's go. Let's just keep going. We had all the stuff we needed. We were good.
You know what they said in the 90s about that?
What?
We were going all night in the 70s. Anyway, carry on, RJ.
It's so true. I'm so old. I'm like aging myself. It's horrible.
I mean, so we're like still in the peak power era here. They still are at their peak powers. I think it's interesting to me. One thing I was thinking about is like remember in like the 93, 94, and I know other bands do this too, where like long jams are almost like an amalgam of other songs. Like in some ways, I feel like this jam has that. There's like a Psycho Killer kind of like segment. There's like an Isabella kind of segment. It's almost like and then in between, there's like those trays like swirling solos around like 16 minutes. It's just like, they tie those together. But they are like, I felt like listening to it this most recent time, like they're definitely going into Psycho Killer right here. And then they just like decided not to. But it's cool. They just stayed on it and brought in all these other songs that had, I think, like inspired by other jams that had happened on the tour, that they were just probably still in their minds and like, inside their brains. And man, this show is fucking outrageous, really.
I don't know if you intended to do this, but like I want to go down a rabbit hole about 12/30/97 now, because like
please, let's do it.
Like at their best, New Year's shows are a summation of the year and of like the themes of the year. And I don't think there's any place better than 12/30/97, where you get the shock bust out of Sneak and Sally, which then turns into a fall 97 jam and segues perfectly into Taste, like every tweezer seemed to do. Pretty solid first set, like not the greatest, but pretty solid. But then the second set, you get this jam, which to your point, RJ, so well said. Like this is a fall 97 jam, like encapsulated here in AC/DC Bag. You get a McGrupp bust out. You get Harpua for the first time since the halfway went one. Like, is this really the first Harpua since I think sometime in 95? I want to say like
that's wild.
They hadn't done this in a long time, like a full narration. You get the like, we don't really care. We'll pay whatever because we just want to keep playing, which is just such a vibe of 97. And then the encore is just like basically a fall 97 jam with 4 songs. The Psycho Killer comment is really interesting because I was thinking about this. One of the sections we have here for the Rushmore is, are there any versions around here that kind of hint at or like, build off of what this jam did? And I kept thinking about 12/7/97 opens with AC/DC Bag, and almost immediately after they finish the chorus, they go into a jam, and you can almost envision that 12/7/97 is going to open with a 15-20 minute AC/DC Bag, but they find Psycho Killer and they go into Psycho Killer then. So like you can almost think like here, well, we've done that, so we're not going to do it again, but like we're at least going to give you a hint at that. But yeah, I mean, this like, what a way to cap off a year. What a way to kick off the second set of the best Fish show that's ever been played. Don't come at me with your hate and your anger here. I don't want to fight you on this. Like, it just is.
I feel like it's like
Um,
10th or 12th on .net or something absolutely ridiculous right now. I don't even want to talk
No,
about
no,
where it
no,
is.
no. It's like third. It's like third or
It's like-
fourth. No, you guys are
Oh,
good.
Well-
it was like way down for a while because all those contemporary shows were up, but
And now it's fourth. So don't worry.
Okay,
Everyone
phew.
just settle down. Just
you
calm down.
fixed it.
Isn't 9, 12, 25 the best show ever at this point?
725. Wait,
I was
9,
thinking
12, 20.
I was thinking everyone was
What?
just like, the next show is going to be the best.
Oh, the
one
next
ever.
show. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. 727 is
720
definitely number 2.
Is
So
number
second
2,
best
so-
show of all time.
Outrageous.
But yeah, no, this jam, when I think about my favorite aspects of Fall 97, it's all contained in this. It's that
Hmm.
just very tight, but really just beautiful melodic groove that they fall into. And then the ambient space on the back end of it. It just has everything.
It has everything, just like the Helping Friendly podcast. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and Brian's going to reveal his next 2 Mount Rushmore additions for AC/DC Bag. You're going to hear Megan's picks and mine and the fans, and it's going to be just glorious. So we'll be right back. All right, Brian. Bridge us to number 3 here.
Bridge us to number 3. So, one of the fun things about this show is the competitive nature that we all have within our drafts, but that can also be our undoing.
Our undoing. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, the show's over at this point, This is my favorite Fish jam that has ever been played. I don't think that there's anything. Well, there's a couple that come close, but I don't think that there's any jam that like I could just sit down right now and like in my head go through the entire jam. I've heard it so many times. This was the second tape I ever received. The first tape was 11/17/94, not 97, 94.
Hmm.
And then I received this show on CD. And the guy who gave it to me said the second set is perfect and went through all the highlights, none of which meant anything to me at the time, but all of which sounded so cool. And so I went into this show with like my first ever Fish expectations, and they were completely met. Like every second of this set is perfect, but nothing is as perfect as this jam, where I don't think the band misses a note. Even when the fans screw with Paul Languedoc's soundboard, it adds to the aura around this jam and adds to the magic of what makes this jam so incredible. I got to stand in the room where this jam was played last October for a work event. And I had my colleague who knows nothing about Fish take a picture for me. And he was like, "Why are you taking a picture here?" And I explained it, and he was like, "Okay, whatever." But I
Just
was
get it
like,
over with.
I could feel it. I could feel it. And that is the I'm getting emotional. The 9/14/99 Boise bag. This jam goes through like 8 different styles of music. You have that like seedy groove-based 97 Hades energy to it. You've got trance-based jamming, you got the start-stop jamming, you have all members of the band taking various steps as leads. You've got just like the start-stop at the end where Fishman is just completely on and playing riff after riff after riff, and Paige has like those zones going across the stage of just weird sounds, crazy feedback, and then they stop, and then they come back and they like completely reinvent the groove, and then they stop and they come back and they do it again. There's a picture of me from like my second week of college. I'd become friends with all these kids on my floor who were all fish fans as well, and they all really liked eating mushrooms as well. And I we put this on like I don't know 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night, all just out of our heads. And I like realized I still remember the feeling that I wasn't close enough to the music. So I picked up my speakers and I like held them next to my head. My friend snapped a picture really quickly, and it's a defining shot of me from college. Um, I, I'm gonna keep gushing off the rails, so I'm just gonna pause and let you guys take this because I love this jam so much. It killed me when I lost this jam in the 25-minute jam draft. I still haven't gotten
Oh,
over it. But Meg, what do you have to say about this? I think you like this jam too.
oh God, I feel so bad hearing you talk about it now, Brian. If you had given me that soliloquy prior to the jam draft, I probably wouldn't have taken it. That was beautiful. I'm not going to say anything about this jam except that it has, I think, the most perfect narrative arc of any jam that Fish has ever played. So that is all I'm going to say because you said it perfectly. It's epic. It's perfect, and I'm sorry I took it in the draft.
Mhm.
That was an
RJ,
amazing.
save us.
I mean, that was just an amazing way of just making Meg feel bad. It was like the most creative way I could think of
Bad.
getting her to feel bad about taking that in the draft. It was perfect. I mean, just incredible. Great work. Yeah, good jam. Great
Nobody
jam.
else was doing the bag Rushmore. I'll just tell you that. When I made this list,
Yeah,
nobody else was doing it.
it's fair.
Okay. Brian, here's where we only had 4 more versions to choose from after this, assuming you're going chronologically, which I hope you are. So where do we go after
Hold on, you need to
1999?
say something about this jam. Come on.
I mean, there's nothing I can really say. You said it. You said it all. I mean, it has everything. I mean, the ending ambient space, is just awesome. Like it's just a perfect way to end such a. I mean, it's just a really, really amazing, yeah, multi-sectional jam that is, yeah, it's up there. It's up there with the best of all time for sure. I think it's, and I don't know what happened. Gave them that ability. Incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at the 1999 fall 99 jam charts, even 99 as a whole, there's a lot of like very solid 18-minute jams throughout the year. And then there's this back-to-back 9/12/99 Ghost and 9/14/99 HTC bag that touch on very similar themes. And then from there, like the remainder of the tour, there's some like really great moments, but like they hit something. These 2 shows out west, they hit something, and they haven't been back to Boise since. And Boise's a cool town. I would I would encourage Fish to go back there. They could still play the Boise State Pavilion. I'd be very into it. Yeah. The last thing I'll say about this jam before I move on is we had Jake Cohen on Beyond the Pond to cover this jam back in 2018. And he did a really great job. He brought some like Euro trash dance music to cover the back half of it. But then he said um there's one artist that we have to focus on because this is what Fish is channeling, and that's Mahler. And
Mhm.
anytime I can get really, really smart, way smarter than anything I can do, music lovers and Fish fans to sit down and talk to me and talk about Fish jams as classical musicians, I'm here for it. That's my thing. So, Meg, I hope you learned your lesson. Seems like
Oh my God. Yeah, well, I have. Let's just say that. Totally still going to take anything you love, just FYI. Just
good.
because I
I
like to
hope
see you get mad.
I hope you do. Amazing jam. Thank you guys for letting me spend all this time gushing about it. Okay.
You know what's actually funny? I don't even know if I won
Yeah.
that draft. Did I win that draft?
Probably.
I'm pretty sure you won that draft, and
Okay. Just want to make sure.
and you won it on the
It was
backs
worth
of
it then.
taking that.
That's not the only reason I won it. I wouldn't have been able to win it if I just had that.
I'll look back and that you picking that like either round 1 or round 2 completely threw my strategy off, and we still have jokes about it to this day because that's the draft where I picked the 85 whipping post.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
exactly.
that Ed made a joke about that earlier. All right.
This
So
is
the
where it
last
gets
one.
interesting, I think.
This is where it gets really interesting because
Mhm.
if you notice, because I'm going in chronological order, I've skipped over 11,798, which I know a lot of people are really big fans of. I felt it was a touch one note. I think in hindsight, I'm just not a huge Ball 98 guy when it comes down to it, unless there's like a truly monumental version of a song. I think I like Fish with a little bit more dynamics than they were doing then. So 2000, we don't really have a lot of options. 2003, we've got a couple nice 11-minute versions. 2004, one of the coolest things that the band did was they brought back AC/DC Bag as a jam vehicle. It opened 8/10, 2004, and then it opened the second set of 8/14, 2004. And for the longest time, the last pick I was going to have here was 8/14, 2004. If there's anyone in this podcast that will defend Coventry, it is me. And I think the AC/DC Bag is the most defensible argument for listening back to Coventry. But we've been talking so much as a group about what Fish is doing today and how unprecedented it is and how it really shocks us that they are able to play the way that they are. And so with that context in mind, I was listening back to a more recent version that made me realize, you know what? The legacy of AC/DC Bag did not end at Coventry. For the longest time, that was the last jammed out version.
Yeah.
And then we started to get versions throughout the 4.0 era. We got Philly 72022, MPP 73122, Berkeley 41923, MSG 73023, Dix 9223, and then we got that fantastic 18-minute version on 12/31/23. But we got another version at a show that and a run that I don't know if it's been forgotten. I don't get a ton of like texts about it, but a run that I think really set Fish up very nicely heading into Mondegreen day 1, days 2 through 4 notwithstanding, and Dix. That really helped to elevate once again the tour. That's a joke. I love Mondegreen day 2 and 3. Day 4 is, whatever.
It's bad.
Trey was wearing all black in the sun. What the hell was going to happen?
Coat.
But this run of Fish, if you listen back to it, I mean, there's just some stunning playing, and this version really caps off the weekend, and that is 8/11/24 from Bethel,
Yes.
New York. This is deep. Well, the other thing I was thinking about, and I texted with good friend of the pod, Justin Bruce, about this, and he said it perfectly. The Bethel version is the modern equivalent to what they were doing during the Coventry Jam. They're just a tighter and better band now than they were then. And that ultimately is what pushed it over the edge, because as great as that version from Coventry is, as stunning as it was to see, I mean, I still remember standing there as a little boy, just in a like mud up to my knees and going, holy shit, dude. Like the second tape you ever got was 9/14/99. Your favorite jam ever is the Boise Bag. You're seeing a 20-minute AC/DC Bag right now. What the fuck? And like shaking myself like with excitement, even though I was so sad about what was happening. It goes back that far, Meg. You know, as much as I love that Coventry AC/DC bag, this one is just a much tighter, much more dynamic band than they were in 2004. That's not a controversial statement. But this is like subterranean jam sessions. This is like, what does the minor key do to a man? Well, listen to this jam. You'll hear what happens when artists drop into the minor key. This is like Fish channeling Mogwai. Like, this is post-rock Fish in such a fantastic way. So Bethel, 8/11/2024.
Yes. This is, to me, total command. And this is 4.0 jamming at its finest. To me, this is one of the strongest thematically behind the Boise bag. It just has such a narrative arc, such a strong perspective. The way that they use repetition in this jam is so commanding. And that riff that Trey discovers like halfway through, that's so driving and it's so much force behind it. It's so authoritative and propulsive, and Fishman is just relentless. And then they have that kind of cool spacey romp at the end, and Mike is doing that like juicy bass line, and Paige and Trey are just shooting across over him. I kind of forgot about this jam. I don't know why. Maybe there's just been so much since then, but I couldn't believe how good it was, and it's on my list too. I think it's incredible. Obviously, there's others, Coventry, the Gamehenge, that are historically important, but musically, this one is just so far above those, I think.
The helicopter segment, yeah.
I just want to say, so just to like expedite my role here, I had the same 4 as Brian. I think that you did it perfectly. I'm so proud of you. Only because I did the same. Oh, well then look at that.
Yes, this is crazy, but I do too.
I just want to bag trifecta.
I made a change this morning too.
Okay, well, I want to hear about that. And Brian mentioned 7 versions in his build up to this version, so I just wanted to comment on a couple of those quickly as he made his way to this one. I think that just going back to 11/7/98, which I think we'll talk about the fan votes in a few minutes, but that it's really pretty, like that version is like much more of an ambient kind of thing, rhythmic and then ambient than I remembered it being, even though we just listened to it, whenever we did 98, fall 98. But I agree with what you were saying. It felt a little more like one note. Coventry, that during this, you do not feel that way?
No, this one's not as big or sweeping as the others, but I love this jam musically, and this was a hard one for me to leave off. And I find it so beautiful, and I love how minimal it is, and it's so patient and quiet, and it's so melancholy. And I think there's just something about this jam that is unbelievably patient and sets it apart from some of the others, because there's always such a driving, propulsive quality to most of the bag jams, and this one is just, I think it's you just float in this way that the Fish can find a floating space. I love it. And I absolutely I really love this jam, and it killed me not to have it on there. And it was what I was going back and forth with a lot, was this and 11/21/97.
Well, we did our best here. There were some other things I was going to say, but I think we.
Sorry, I interrupted RJ.
That's okay. I just want to shout out the first version that we listened to, which was a tape that I had that I still have the cover for up there, 8/12/93, which is had the old intro and a really great jam and a great show. And I was kind of surprised. I thought that show had been released, but I think it's just that it should be released, because that show is awesome. There's like so many great moments from 8/12/93, so they should release that show.
Yeah, it has that jazzy breakdown outro too. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Got like 4 or 5 shows in a row. August 93. We should release the whole month at this point in time.
Yeah. They did St. Louis, right? So just like do the rest of August.
We've got Marat, 8/13, 8/14, 8/15.
Oh, 8/14 and 15.
17. Jesus. Is that right? I think that.
What are we doing?
Right? And then 8/25. Yeah, and then 8/7 and 8/2. I mean, so much.
And just real quick, let me talk about the fan vote. We did have a lot of responses, which is so fun to hear from everybody. We had the 11:20 197, 12:30 97, and then there was a tie for third, but the fourth was 9:14 99. But the tie was between 11:7 98 and 12:31 23. If you can believe
Yeah.
that. So
A lot of people, I think, are going to stand for that Gamehenge one just because the context is so epic. But
yeah,
and
I think
yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It seems like, I guess we got Tony here. We got people just telling us that if we didn't choose that, it's because we weren't there. Tila riding through MSG. This is just, we we're gonna get yelled at for doing something. But yeah, I mean, I listened back to it. I think it's great. It's the best part of that set musically. But I don't think it makes the top 4 versions of all time. And if I'm, that's just my personal opinion, not qualified.
No,
but here I am.
I agree. I mean, I think it's fantastic. This is no, I'm not throwing any shade at the 12:31:23 version. I mean, they played freaking Gamehenge at Madison Square Garden on New Year's Eve on their 40th anniversary. And then they jammed AC/DC Bag deeper than they had since Coventry. That was one of the best moments in all Fish history whenever you compile them.
Yeah.
I think if you're listening back, trying to figure out the 4 versions where the band did the most that they possibly could with this song in hand, which I think as we're going through this exercise, I'm realizing that is what the Rushmore thing is about, is what did you do with the song? Not the tightest, most, compact, great version of it. That version is admittedly far too singularly Trey heavy to compete with the 8/11/24 version. If we're going to talk about because the first 3, I don't see how they're off. So it's really between 11/7 98, 8/14/24, or 8/14/04, and then 12/31/23 is the potential 4th version.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally understand someone's argument. I don't personally agree with it.
But let's look. Okay, first of all, I think if you're listening, we got some in the chat. But if you're listening and you want to say man, you weren't there, bro, you weren't there at MSG, you didn't see the dancers and the Gamehenge, and that's totally true. But it's still not a top 4 version. Jackson says, can someone point me in the direction of any other jam that resembles the first segment of the Boise Bag? There's really nothing like it. Hey, Jackson.
I can't. Part of the reason I think the best Fish jam ever is it's so singular. The only other jam that has segments that are close to it is the 9/12/99 Ghost. Those 2 jams hang together as kind of Fish was out west, wanted to jam really deep, and found this kind of rhythmic space that is akin to what they were doing in 97, akin to what they were doing in 99. Some of the ambience from 98, a bit of the, bloated big groove jams from 2000. I say that as a compliment, but nothing really sounds like that. I'm going to get a lot of shit from RJ for what I'm about to say. So I apologize in advance. I mean no ill will here. This is not trying to undercut your favorite jam of all time. But the Providence Bowie sounds like fall 94 jamming, just applied to David Bowie. This is a very singular thing. They a lot of the long jams in fall 99 are wide open and vast and spacious, but none of them really have this balance between tightness and groove. And Corbin 777 with Sir, my family was from Gamehenge, bro.
Hilarious.
Comment of the year. But it is really singular.
Well, and it's so hard to compare a jam from 94 to 99 because so much had happened in between then that influenced their jamming in 99.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more saying that like there's nothing really around there that like
Yeah,
you can compare to it.
I do want to say just quickly, Megan, I want to see if what else you want to say about this. But first, I want to tell you we're hopping over to Library Card in a minute to talk about Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen, which we're going to do in a minute. But Megan, is there anything ACDC bag wise that you want to say that we haven't already discussed?
No, I'm just surprised we all had the same. My honorable mentions were just the 98 UIC Coventry and the 23 Gamehenge. So I kind of landed there too.
Yeah.
But I feel really good about our
Awesome.
list. Yeah.
It's a good list. It's a good list. Good gems. We got like one of the best jams of all time, and a couple from maybe the best show of all time. We got we got two representatives from the best tour of all time. So we're really rocking and rolling.
And we've got like contemporary fish. Like I really love that. I mean, this Bethel jam, listening to it, it's when you put it up against any of these others, it deserves its spot.
Exactly. I agree. Okay, so next week we're going to be back with Sigma, Oasis, Rushmore. We've already updated all the links in the computer lab. If you go to osirispod.com/Rushmore, you will see your Sigma Oasis voting form. So please join in the fun and vote there, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you don't know how to do that, if you look on Instagram and look at Megan's account, she made a tutorial. I don't know if that's still up there, but it was a good tutorial.
Yeah, it's
for
on
sure.
the HF Pod account. Mm-hmm.
HF Pod, great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we're gonna end it there, and we're gonna see you guys next week for another exciting edition of the Helping Friendly Podcast, episode number 792 or something. But we're gonna keep it rolling, guys. Anything else?
No, can't wait to do Sigma. It's gonna be fun.
Can I do Sigma and the Dix show and jam draft?
Can't wait.
Coming.
Can't wait.
It's
can't
coming,
wait.
guys. It's
can't
coming.
wait.
I can't wait. According to Apple Podcasts, we have 795 episodes of the Helping Friendly Podcast in Apple Podcasts. I think there's like maybe 20 that aren't in there. So we're over 800, guys. We're gonna keep going. Enjoy your book club, nerds. Thank you, Jackson. Thanks everybody in the chat. That was fun. All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Guys.